Welcome to the Rockport School Committee meeting for Wednesday, June 4th. It is the last school committee meeting of the academic year. Why don't we start with introductions and then we'll move on to the agenda. Go ahead.
June Sanfilippo, Business Manager.
Mark Lorenz, Committee Member.
Nicole Altieri, School Committee Vice Chair.
Amy Oakes, School Committee Chair.
Mark Branco, Superintendent.
Jessica DeLisi, School Committee Member.
Tammy Teitelbaum, Committee Member.
Thank you very much. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. They've been in your drive. Have you all had a moment to look at them? All right. I would be looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
And are there any adjustments to the minutes or edits? All right. All in favor of approval? Aye. Thank you very much. Public comment. I don't see anyone in the room who looks like they might be here for public comment. Just checking. All right. Do we have any correspondence tonight?
We do not.
All right. Do we have any donations tonight?
We do not.
Do we have any personnel items tonight?
We do not.
We just saw an enormous public example of student success in our commencement exercises. Somehow I'm not surprised that we wouldn't have a student here this very last week, but I bet you have some successes that you would like to share with us, not to put you on the spot.
That's all right. So
Okay.
we had a fantastic graduation. So congratulations to all of our seniors, the class of 25. Congratulations to Principal Rose and the administration for putting together a really, really fun and thoughtful community event. Every year we go through this, and every year it's so student-centered and it's so community-centered. Also, a big thank you to all of the philanthropic-natured people in our community once again who gave out an enormous amount of scholarships to our young adults to go off to college and career. So it was a really fun night, really great night. We have some events coming up. I think we've had move-up days today, I think, or yesterday we had 5th and 6th grade move-up. We have an 4th grade state fair. You can come up and do it if you want, because they're in your head. 4th grade state fair. We have 8th grade move-up night, or 8th grade graduation actually next week. Wednesday night, right? So that's going to be a fun event. And then we've got a couple more transition nights going on, and our 8th grade civics fair is coming up too, which is a second year of that initiative, I think, from the state. But it's been a third year maybe. Yeah. So that's a really nice one to talk about publicly, where the state has really taken advantage of new frameworks around civics, and instead of sort of ramming and cramming another standardized test into our processes, they've allowed 8th grade teams to develop civics engagement activities. So you'll see articles in the Gloucester Times, you'll see people shadowing elected officials. You'll see some really good civic engagement projects. I've had meetings with students around some ways that they'd like to impact change at the school. I just worked through email today with a student who's talking about flipping the start times, because he's done all the research on start time. So some really neat, engaging work coming out of the 8th grade for those projects. So really happy. It's not every day that I get out in public and say something fully publicly praising around the initiatives that DESE hits us with sometimes. But in this particular case, it's really one of the more authentic ways that they've allowed students to demonstrate their learning. So my hope is in the future you'll see more and more of that. So please check out our website. There's a ton of stuff on that calendar coming up. And I just tell students to stay safe and enjoy the last couple of weeks of school. And parents and family members, they're going to be all yours very soon.
Thank you. All right. That brings us to a little bit of unfinished business, and people who are around the table can see my little cat index cards. They're very curious about what is going on. Really, these are just my thoughts about how we might get ourselves to cover our subcommittees. And so I'll start at the top of the list, and I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, and then let's see what you all think. So when I think about Mark, I think you were on our policy committee last year, and I wonder if you might like to continue. And then Jess, I wonder if you'd be interested in joining and taking that over. That's I think, a committee that might not have to meet very often, since we've met about 700 times in the past 2 years. but still, if something comes up, that would be great for the two of you to take it. Negotiations needs to be me, and it needs to be you as well. Is that okay? All right. And again, next year is not a year for negotiations, but we will have that subcommittee, I suppose, in case something should come up. Wellness, Nicole, you are our representative to the Wellness Committee, and I wonder if you want to continue. You do. Okay. So that takes care of that one. And then when we look at communication and advocacy, Jess, you are the veteran. You've been on that this year, and I wonder if you want to continue. Yep. And Tammy, would you like to join that? That would be great. I think it would be so great to have people on that committee who are maybe especially tuned to what elementary parents are thinking, right? It's so important that we understand what parents are thinking who are in the pipeline coming up. And I bet you have so many good contacts, so I think that is great. A select board liaison, I wondered, Tammy, if you would do that as well? And I think it's important to say that we don't expect that when we're the liaison to a committee, it doesn't mean you go to every single committee. I think it means that if the select board needs to reach out about something, they might start with you. I bet they'd also go straight to you. Somehow, I'm guessing that's what happens. Board of Health liaison, Mark, I'm wondering if that's something that interests you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy to.
And again, I don't think that means you have to go to every single meeting, but I think it would be great if you were interested. That leaves Finance Committee liaison for me. And so I think that is all of our committees. And I think that I have, perhaps everybody has two. And so I'm thinking about our note taker in the back. You don't have to get it all right now because I'm going to give you the cat cards at the end of the meeting. All right? Okay. You could have worn your cat shirt. So if that is all right, then I think I need a motion and a second. And do I need to do it one by one?
Not if
I
you just
can.
Or if you're all in agreement, you could just do a batch if you'd like to do that.
Are we all in agreement about our subcommittees? All right. So could I have a motion to approve the assignments to the subcommittees and liaisons to standing committees as we just discussed?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay. All done.
Thank you for ignoring my typo on the back up there, by the way.
I didn't even see it. But that does bring us to new business. We are honored to have Dr. Ray Cahill from the Rockport Public Health Department here. And you are going to join us, please. Come forward and press the button on the microphone so it turns green. Thanks for coming to visit with us. And you're going to talk about the Rise Mosaic Opioid Recovery Grant.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be in front of this audience. This is great. I know through diving into things, speaking with Jody and with Jess Palm, that the school has programming programming in place, as well as some in the planning stages aimed at supporting students and families with addiction. The school is public-facing in a very special way. It comes up against things that really challenge the health and safety of our youth. I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time this evening to update you on a new initiative in the local public health world that's focused on helping individuals, youth, and families dealing specifically with the impact of opioid use disorder. Municipalities across the Commonwealth have been able to apply for one-year matching grants funded by the opioid settlement allocations through the Mass Department of Public Health to help reduce stigma and foster a more supportive and informed environment around opioid use disorder. And this past March, Rockport, in conjunction with Gloucester and Ipswich, was awarded one of those municipal matching grants. The three communities pooled $150,000, and that was matched. So the total grant is $300,000. The grant is managed by the RISE, R-I-Z-E, the RISE Massachusetts Foundation. That's a Boston nonprofit that is solely dedicated to funding and creating solutions to end the overdose crisis in Massachusetts. We have a steering committee. Our three public health directors, myself, Dominique Hurley from Gloucester, and Colleen Furman in Ipswich, are on the steering committee. We're also lucky to be joined by the Gloucester Regional Prevention Director, Chelsea Goldstein-Walsh, as well as the Gloucester Regional Prevention Coordinator, Lacey Natty. The overarching goal of this initiative is we're working to develop an ecosystem where we can reduce barriers that individuals face when they're seeking treatment and recovery services. A community survey was done on Cape Ann, and it was very clear what the top handful of barriers were. And this is in no particular order, but the cost of getting into a sober living program or detox, the cost of the prescription medications involved in those programs, access to transportation and the cost of transportation to get to those programs or just to your related medical appointments. And then a big one, we were very happy to see this bubble up through the data, was stigma. That was one of the top things mentioned, just the stigma around substance abuse, but in this particular case, opioid use disorder. So our grant dollars are going to be used to pay stipends, to cover sober housing costs, to cover, help reduce copays for medical prescriptions related to those programs, to pay for transportation. We're going to be partnering with Uber Health in terms of rides. And we're going to be looking far and wide to see how we can help the anti-stigma campaigns available in our communities. We're currently in the last stages of finalizing our MOUs with the various community organizations that we're partnering with. I listed a bunch of them on the sheet there. We're familiar with, thank you for doing that, Superintendent Franco, that's great. So we're all very familiar with many of these. Some provide housing, and some provide multiple resources as well. We're particularly fortunate to have the help of Jess Palm, our regional social worker, as well as Officer David Kim, who's on the Rockport Police Department. He is a trained recovery coach, and so he's part of this initiative as well. So once these partnerships are formalized, our next pivotal step is going to be a large-scale community outreach process. We want to disseminate the information about the grant program throughout the community. And knowing that the academic session here is coming to a close for the summer, I just wanted to kind of get ahead of the curve with respect to the school community and at least get the word out. The purpose of coming here tonight is really twofold. I wanted to make the school community aware of the work being done to help develop this ecosystem, to reduce the barriers that people face, specifically with respect to opioid treatment and recovery. But second, that the health department certainly gladly support all initiatives of the school system, the school committee, particularly those aimed at mitigating the impact of addiction and substance use. All of us here tonight are likely aware there's not a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to addiction. There's a broad spectrum of needs. Just thinking of somebody affected, I'm sorry. And if we're going to have an impact, a significant impact, we need to be talking about this. We need to be pooling our resources, pooling our thoughts. It's really the only path to coming up with constructive opportunities for intervention. Keeping the youth safe is paramount, and certainly open to hearing about any programs that you all have in place or dream about potentially of implementing in the school system. Ideally, we all talk about how these ideally would be low cost, high impact, and one of the, as our survey in the community showed, focusing on stigma and reducing stigma can't be overemphasized. That's such a key component. And I think about opportunities to do that even in our youth. I think as we grow older, we get a little thick up here, but to introduce that to our younger population certainly has potential. Glad to answer any questions you have. I did want to put a plug in for our steering committee is seeking to create a community advisement board composed of individuals from these representative communities. Our focus ideally is to bring together individuals, or at least representatives of those individuals, with lived experience regarding opioid impact. Obviously, that input from the advisory board is going to be used to direct the steering committee and how those dollars are ultimately spent and allocated. So if you privately, if you know anyone who you think might be interested in joining such an advisory board, please have them reach out to me directly. Okay? So thank you for that. That's what I brought for tonight, and I appreciate you listening. And if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them. There's a lot of meat on the bone. I tried to give you the 30,000-foot view, but if even after the meeting, if you have any questions or are looking for a deeper dive, the water is very deep.
So thank you, Dr. Cahill. Do we have some questions?
I had a question. This work is so important, so thank you for doing it,
Sure, you're welcome.
first of all. But there's a lot here focused on, like the getting sober. So like the person maybe directly addicted or dealing with it. Is there anything with this grant that will be used for maybe like families or students who have adults or parents in their lives, maybe like support groups, something like that?
Great question, Jess. Only insofar as if those are programs offered by the partners in the communities that we're working specifically with. I don't know of any immediately off the top of my head, but I certainly don't know the full roster of what each of these. We initially got feedback from 36 potential partners, and when we had our partner kickoff meeting a few weeks back, I think we only had about 18 of them in the room. It was just a scheduling thing. But when I look at the list, I'm hopeful, but I don't know specifically. Yeah. And the one thing, and maybe it was clear, maybe it wasn't. The sort of the charge in what we're doing is we're deliberately not focusing on the prevention piece. The dollars they're probably going to go very quick. And so we wanted to have the greatest impact, so we deliberately focused on it. And part of the recommendation is that we focus on the recovery aspect, the treatment and recovery, not to say that any one aspect is more or less important than the other. It's all part of it.
I would suspect, though, Dr. Cahill, that under that stigma surrounding opioid use disorder, if you start to partner with 36 partners, particularly school districts are involved, and you get school leaders,
Yeah.
that I think there could be an offshoot, even if it's not coming directly from the grant funds.
Right.
I would suspect there'd be that fallout conversation that then leads to kind of like a tree branching off a little bit,
Yeah.
where you get school counselors or mental health professionals in the communities who are saying, listen, we need to have some kind of wraparound service for the family members, because we know from research that's sort of intricately connected to the person getting healthy usually. Is that outside of the facility support system? So I think it's a good question. I also respect the answer that the dollar only stretches so far.
Yeah.
It's a great answer.
Yeah. There are other communities that have already expressed interest in wanting to be part of the next funding cycle, because this if we can successfully build this ecosystem, then the whole goal is for it to just perpetuate itself. And other grants, larger versions of this grant, other municipalities contributing, they could get matched in even bigger financial amounts. So we only see this expanding, and so that's pretty exciting to think about. Yeah.
That was my question, is the intention that this sort of all these partnerships will stay in place even after the funding is gone, to get more funding, or to just kind of be like that ecosystem? So you see there being more funding sort of in the future after this money's gone.
That would be amazing. That'd be amazing. We're going to keep pushing with it.
Yeah.
And for sure, the landscape changes drastically. So it was in March when we heard that we were awarded the grant, and then there are steps. Then they have to then send the formal awards, and then that has to go get approved by each municipality, and then has to go back to the Rise Foundation for final processing. So the money just landed, and but even in that amount of time, the landscape in terms of partners has shifted dramatically. So our initial list of who we anticipated partnering with looks very different today even than it did in March. So, and for lots of different reasons that's the case. So hopefully we'll get a lot of new interest. And as you say, Superintendent Branco, those offshoot conversations, other people learning about this program, and trying to, throw their hat in the ring would be great.
Dr. Cahill, I wonder if the results of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which are publicly available, are helpful to you in this grant writing process.
100%. So when we look at what schools can do, that's number one on the list. What could a school do? Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So continuing that every 2 years, correct, is paramount. We've been through our the 2020 and the 2022 surveys with a fine-tooth comb, and probably the best way to try to get into the minds of the children, but even I see it as an opportunity to get a window into what might be happening, at home as well. So, a lot of times that's where it starts. Anyway.
Sorry, I had a follow-up question that kind of ties into that. Seems like there's a natural tie-in with this grant and this initiative to tie it into other high-risk behaviors in either students, families, different community members, like things we've talked, alcohol or the vaping we've talked about here at the school committee. So does any of this, these strategies you're thinking about, is the grant specifically need to be funded for the opioid, or can we tie it into kind of a bigger picture about all of the things we've sort of talked about the whole year and the whole ecosystem of our health?
So yes to both, Mark. So yes, any dollars that are spent, there has to be an opioid connection with respect to this grant. But it's incredibly common that there are multiple factors, be it alcohol, opioids, whatnot. So different layers of addiction, and so is all of this kind of initiative that can apply beyond opioids, 100%. And whatever is done in the school systems, it's all about harm reduction, addiction, just those intervention curricula. So yeah.
I just have one last question, which is, do you know yet whether this grant is one that you would be able to apply for again?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. So we want it to go really well so that you have great data and a great reason to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, the only major piece I'd like to add is that as a superintendent on the North Shore, I sit on the board of directors for the North Shore Educational Consortium, and that we've been in the news a lot for having difficult conversations around their Recovery High School program.
Yeah.
And the numbers have been in flux in that particular Recovery High School program when it comes to enrollment. The support from the state has not always been as robust as some people would like it to be, and we've had tough conversations as a board of directors around which programs at NEC we can continue to support moving forward and which we can't, and that's one that's a real conversation for us right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything publicly that hasn't already been said publicly. It was in the Boston Globe, I think, about a month or two ago. But it's a real issue. So when you talk about recovery, there are not enough of these programs, and I think when you talk about doing only through public entities or a public collaborative like that, it's a horrible way to phrase it. It becomes a dollars game, and how many people are we impacting, and how many other programs are we impacting by having this or not having it? Right. And high school principals, particularly across the North Shore, are having difficult conversations about if we have 1 or 2 or 10 or 12 students who are struggling, where are they going to go if they can't go to Recovery High School? How else are we going to service those kids? Can we really do it in-house and with local support?
Yeah.
So this is really important that you're focusing on recovery,
Yeah.
because I do think, schools are pretty good at the post-recovery piece, or we're even pretty good with wraparound services. But when the person's in crisis and right in the middle of it, we're just not equipped to do it that way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you so much
Well,
for coming out tonight.
You're very welcome.
We really appreciate it.
Well, same. Appreciate your time, and reach out if you have any questions or, again, are interested in a deeper dive. There's some
Or an update, right? We'll look
Absolutely.
forward to hearing how it goes.
Will do. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right. The next item of new business is our own school committee communication and advocacy goal and self-reflection. You are going to facilitate this.
Sure.
All right.
I'd be happy to co-facilitate it, though.
Oh, let's co-facilitate
So this was our first time in, I won't say forever, but in quite a while that I think the school committee's put together a formal goal like this, as expected usually, and so the state does like us to do some kind of public reflection on it.
So yay us.
Yay us, yep, really good job. And so what I'm doing tonight with you, I hope, is I've just taken the nomenclature right out of the state documents that we usually use when we talk about reflection and evaluation. So we'll use the exceed, meet, significant progress, some progress, and did not meet. I did send this out to the committee ahead of time in the spirit of full disclosure to the community, so we're not surprising anyone on camera with this conversation tonight. They've had time at least to think about it. Tammy, I know it's going to be hard for you, but I feel this is a really good tutorial for you, I feel like, so you could just take copious notes in your head and be ready to rock and roll for the next meeting. So really, I guess my suggestion here is that we look at the goal as holistically, but then at the same time drill down to those 5 key actions, and talk about how we did, why we think we did that way, what the impact was on our work, the students, teachers, community. And this should theoretically help us tee up the redesign of our goal at our summer retreat.
Right, because this goal came out of that summer retreat that we held before school started. And it was a good activity, I think, for us to think about what we thought was most important and to think about what was reasonable and what is in our lane, right? Because there are lots of things we might like to do, but they're not actually in our lane. So we wanted to support the development and implementation of some short-term key actions, and then we wanted some long-term key actions, right? And obviously we're trying to be better communicators. And I think about that first one, part of this is about a commitment to every single student, and the second part is about a commitment to advocacy for community support and maintaining a comprehensive local school district. That's very overt. Part of our goal is to maintain a comprehensive school district that supports the concept of a multi-generational community. So we said we were going to try to do the 5 things on the bottom of the slide. And I think the most interesting conversation is how we think we did rather than how we're going to rate ourselves at the bottom. I don't think we need to get too hung up, though we can do that at the end. But I know we said we wanted to be free to schedule update meetings with the superintendent as we needed. Remember, we didn't set these up on a rigid schedule. We said, well, the door is open, and if we'd like to go in, we can. And so
People did take advantage of that. So people would text, people would call. Sometimes people would just come in. Sometimes we'd bump into each other at a coffee shop, right? So I feel like, I guess the original goal, if we recall, was to just make sure we were accessible to each other outside of a formal meeting every other week, in sort of this setting. So I felt like if you needed me, you got hold of me, and if I could be there for you, or if I needed one of you, that I was able to do the same thing. And so I would think it went well. I'd love to hear if other people felt the same way.
And I think it was important because it represented a straight line from a school committee member to the superintendent without having to go through the school committee chair, right? And I think that's a good thing. So as a school committee member, I can't remember if I know I was in your office a couple times, but I think a lot of it had to do with communication and advocacy. But I came for a walkthrough and I got to have a chit chat, and I thought that was great. So I wonder how it felt to everybody.
I think for me, it was more informal. I'm not sure we really reached out and never had like a formal meeting, but there were times where I popped in and we had some conversations, which was great. So I do like that informal aspect of you willing to meet anytime and talk. I do think, just from my own reflection, that going forward, I would like to maybe schedule one time a year at least, just to kind of meet and go over things. In what I was really thinking about, and you sort of just mentioned it, is, oftentimes I feel like when I'm going to, I'm asking questions or seeking information, but I think it needs to be a two-way where if you need something, that we're also here to support you. And so, I just want to kind of keep that open both directions. So that would be something going forward that I would like to do. Just make sure we have that.
Good.
More.
And Jess or Nicole, do you have anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree on both accounts that, it was more informal, although we had a few meetings. I never reached out personally to schedule. I feel like because I'm in the elementary school so much with my kids that I didn't feel the need, but I think looking forward to next year, I would definitely like to schedule something in the middle high school.
You okay?
I agree with what everyone said. I don't know if Mark was sick of me, because I felt like I was in his office, not all the time, but I think maybe we met to talk about one thing and then we were talking about other things, which is great. And I agree with Mark that, if he wants support from us, or there's something that we can help with, or outreach, or whatever that he needs, that he feels free to, know that we're available to
Right.
him as
And I
well.
think this is really important, because you're not supposed to feel like you have a muzzle and you're not allowed to talk to the superintendent. Right.
Yeah, and I think from the counter perspective, I don't know how many people have 5 bosses, right? So it's an interesting dynamic when you have 5 people managing you. And so the other thing I think we were really good at is we had some serious transparency. So it wasn't, if we spoke, everybody knew we spoke because it came up at another meeting or it came up in another conversation. So I think that cohesiveness is important. There's enough dysfunction that you can see any day that you watch committee members from other communities. And I'm proud of the fact that we don't represent that way. So, yep.
Right. So there's an art to having an open door without inadvertently then having 5 different people saying 5 different things and cross signals and chaos. And that's not the intent of this at all. And I don't think that's what we did. Individual committee member school visits, not just update meetings, but actual visits. And you and I have talked about this. I imagine that if you have a child in the schools, and if your children have grown up, you've been in the schools a lot. And if you don't have a child in the schools, then you need to schedule an appointment and walk in and walk through, or you won't do it.
And I do know that both principals, when I've had this conversation, you're welcome in the buildings. They want to see you. There's a lot of administrative walkthroughs. The district is so small, we can be in and out of classrooms and up and down hallways all day if we really needed to be. So I don't think there'll be any misunderstandings around it. I think it's really, really important when we talk about communication and advocacy that you all have seen the classrooms, everything from the physical space to experiencing the learning opportunities. And there's so much great stuff that happens regularly that we'll never get to show you on a camera here.
And I could be wrong, but I think it's possible if you have your school committee hat on and you wanted to go just to see science classes,
Right.
for instance. I think it's possible to ask to do that, and I think you would either go with the superintendent or you might go with somebody else. But it's really reasonable to ask, and I think we should not be shy. Yeah. We're a long way, I think, from having people feel that we're looking over their shoulders. We are not breathing down people's necks.
And I think it's important too. I've never really felt like I needed to do that being in a school, and I know many of us are in schools every day, but we're not necessarily in the Rockport schools. So I think taking taking that offer up and doing it once, maybe not, every year, but once every couple years would be probably really important for us to keep in mind and do that. Just to see, specifically and to see everything we talk about here, seen in action. So I think that would be important to do, even for us that are always out of school. Yeah.
And I know both of the Amy's and yourself will be good at communicating that, but I also think it's so important that if we are going into the schools that the teachers know sort of what the purpose is, and kind of know we're coming and know what the purpose is, and it's just to kind of show off like all the amazing things that maybe like if you haven't had a kid in elementary school in a while or whatever that you want to see. So I would never want anyone to feel like you said like we're breathing down their necks, and I don't think that they do feel that way, but I think I would feel comfortable just knowing that they understood the purpose.
I think we also would not want to make additional work for people by doing this. People are busy enough without having to do more. So, you okay so far?
I mean, I feel like I kind of touched on that with my first
You did.
answer.
Okay. The next one I think we talked about, and I think we just flat out haven't done this. And so I've asked the superintendent if he would please set 4 dates for this coming year. Maybe morning, maybe afternoon, maybe evening. I trust him to figure out when to do it, where to do it, and how to do it. But I would ask that we that you pick one of those dates to go, and I will go to each of them with you. I think it's really powerful for the superintendent to be available and for us to be in partnership with him. I think we just need to put it on the calendar, go do it, and give it a try. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if people turn up or not, and we'll learn a lot from just giving it a try. And so I want to be sure that feels okay to everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The next one, I think we get 2 thumbs up on publication of In the Loop. Next version is coming soon. So that's very exciting. And Jess and I and the superintendent have talked about possible different types of formats maybe for next year. Maybe the big 8-page format. That's quite a lot of work. That's a big lift. There might be other formats here and there that might get really important information out. But it certainly seems like it was a good start. Yeah. Any thoughts about that, or no?
I just want to say, and I know that this has been said before, but while we kind of pushed for this and, came up with the idea, like, huge props to the people that actually wrote the articles and put it together.
Right, because we had a couple meetings in the superintendent's office, but in no way did we do the graphic design, the formatting, the writing, the proofreading, the editing. We didn't do any of that stuff. We didn't raise the money to pay for it. We didn't figure out how to do the mailing to every single address. We didn't have to do that. And your staff, you did a good job.
So Jody Goodhue's in the front. She did the majority of the heavy lift with a team, but she took point on a lot of it. So, and just to your point about different formats, I think the most important piece of feedback we've heard from the community is that it physically showed up. Mm-hmm. And this is not a generational comment. It's just an observation that people were really happy to not have to go to a website, to not have to open up a link, to not have to follow us on anything. And that feedback came from people of all ages, actually. So I think if we can at least continue with some, maybe it's, 3 of these a year go out, and in between they're little postcards or snippets or something else that go in. I think, a save the date goes out with all of the concerts at the start of the school year. So if you'd love to come to all of our concerts, you hang that on your fridge. Now you have a save the date for the whole year. That kind of communication advocacy would be really important. So I think we'll play with some formats and see what seems to work. But really proud of the work, and it's worth the lift. It's totally worth the lift. Yeah.
And then finally, begin to draft. Begin to draft. That's like begin to think about something. Are you going to draft it, or begin to think about drafting it? Begin to draft long-term plans to partner with the community to garner support for continued funding for the school district, and to best understand the expectations and needs of the community in regard to supporting our school-aged children. So that is really quite broad. How do you think we did on that?
So I think it depends how you're defining it. I think part of what we need to do is let people know who don't have kids in the district, people who pay the bill, quite honestly, what the value added of having your own school district is, and what our students are producing, and how well they're doing here in this particular school district, and what that looks like for college and career readiness, and for Rockport as a town, having them in the community and being a vibrant part of a multi-generational community. I think that's an important message. It starts with, in the Loop publications, it starts with coffees, it starts with budgeting, it starts with transparency around how we're trying to be really respectful of the taxpayer dollar. It starts with taking a look at HR and programming, all of the work we've done for 3 years, so that whether you have students in the district or not, you feel like we are a valuable part of your community. That's an important. So I believe we've probably just started it. We have to now put, some legitimate steps and concrete processes in place to make sure we're doing the work a little heavier. But I think we've started it.
I think we made an effort to. I think we have a strong relationship with the Foundation for Rockport Schools. It was lovely to have them come to a meeting and to talk about their work. Their event is certainly great, but I feel like that's a start. That's one example, and that there are many other organizations out there for us to connect with. And I would imagine we would keep going. Nicole, you look like you're going to say something. You're leaning forward.
No, I was just going to say, I think that sort of the first part of that, the, garner support for continued funding of the school district, I think that in the loop, obviously, and the whole budgeting process, the budget book, which we did not do, Mark did, but our meetings around the budget and having those be as transparent and straightforward and understandable as possible is a great step toward that. I definitely, to me, this is a huge sort of area for growth and focus that we need to drill down on. Maybe starting with at the, during our summer workshop that we have, not to skip ahead from 3 to 2, but I think that it was a big lift, and we knew that when we wrote this. We were kind of like, okay, this is sort of a big, broad, thing, and sort of figuring out who those partners are.
Well, and some of the best goals in organizations are iterative, right? Mm-hmm. You don't create a goal, check it off, say, yeah, I met that goal, now I just move on and create another goal for the sake of developing goals. Right. The goal is to not develop goals. The goal is to do the work and have intended outcomes. And so I think my recommendation would be that, this remains a heavy goal, if not the only one, and that it gets tweaked in a purposeful way between now and September. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Say, you mentioned the workshop. I think that's a great start to this. But it is a lot of work, and I think we might need more than one workshop. So sort of thinking of, we did the summer workshop last year. We have another one coming up for this year. Maybe even having a winter workshop or even a half-day workshop somewhere, because it is such a heavy lift and there is so much to it that I think we need to keep it on our radar, because it's constantly going to be changing, constantly going to be updating, and I think it demands more of our attention than we've done in the past. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Jess?
I agree.
Okay. You okay over there?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Taking it in.
All right. I think I agree with everyone. I think all of this is the right work, and I think that we've made some really good progress. I would imagine we would continue the work, and that this would continue to drive us and inform our work together. Certainly, this is what we will focus on when we come together in the summer. And I think it'd be brilliant in the summer to deliberately add a little bit of time to talk about the notion of a mid-year. You know how you go to a meeting and you don't leave enough time to schedule the next meeting? Let's deliberately leave time when we do that. So I think about those words on the bottom. I think, how did we do? I mean, I think we're in progress. I think some of these things we did, and I think some of these things we're just starting, and I think some of these things we didn't get done, and I think, well, that's okay. Yeah? Are we allowed to say we're in progress?
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we.
Yeah, I think we're floating between some progress and significant progress, right?
Yeah,
In general, so
yeah, I think so.
yeah, it's good.
Do we get like a rating or reported to the Massachusetts Association of School Committee?
I just sent an email.
Anything like that? Are we just done?
I think I just send an email with
Really?
the agenda. That might be it. So
Wow. All right. Well, so we have formally had a goal and done some public reflection.
But I do
Okay.
like this process of reflecting, having a chance to
Yeah.
hear all of our voices and think about it. I think it is important to do. So I like this process a lot.
So this last one that I built is sort of a very broad catch-all that I like to use in a lot of different formats. So kind of goes from, glass fully full to kind of glass half full to, and I don't ever talk about glass being empty, but not there yet, right? We're not there yet. So this is sort of, let's go around the table, have a quick conversation about, maybe 3 things that really jump out at us that we're really proud of accomplishing, or something that jumped out at us or that's in your memory. 2 areas that you think we could use a little more growth in and we need to focus on, and maybe one of them is already outed as the goal, right? And then one potential or substantial challenge that you think is coming up next year that we just have to mentally prepare for.
And just to make sure I'm clear, we're not supposed to come to consensus as a team on the 3 things or the one thing, right? This is just a conversation
And honestly, if you
guide.
can't come up with 3, that's quite all right too.
Okay.
This is sort of a free-flowing format for you.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
no pressure.
No pressure. All right. I'll model. I am proud of the fact that we set a goal. We put ourselves out there. We said straight out that we need to go out to the community. We need to advocate for our schools and do a better job with communication. We're not afraid to say that we could do better in those areas and that it's critical for us to do that. So I think we did that pretty well. Next.
I'm just really proud to be a part of this committee. Coming into it last year, I didn't 100% know what I was getting myself into. I just saw that no one was running, and I was like, hey, might as well give that a try. And I'm just really proud to be a part of it. I think being here now and having some focus and attention on it, I see the good that work that this committee and this district and this community does for the school-age children. And yeah, just proud to be a part of it.
So 3 things I'm proud of real quick. The budget process, I think it was very clear. We were very upfront and very transparent with it. And I think it was, a lot of hard decisions with it. But I think from the beginning to the end of that process, which took a long time, we were, I think, very proud of that. I'm proud of all the work the administration team did. I mean, thinking back to how many meetings we were here on Wednesday and how many different members of the administration team came here and spoke to us about all the different initiatives, and it just makes your head spin to think about everything that happened. That's immense, and I'm really proud of the work that they all did with that. And then the third is the communication in that loop, which we've already talked about. Yeah.
I was also going to say communication in the loop to thank everyone. I'm really proud of just general collaboration in the district, hearing how sort of the structure of collaboration, having that be the culture of the district. I thank Mark for doing a lot of that. I think the admin team, I'm thinking back to when we were talking about changing the structure of the middle school and how collaborative the teachers were in that whole process, being very selfless, and proud of how we center the students in our decision making, and I'm also proud of our negotiations that we did this year with RESA, and I thought it was definitely the best one that I've been part of. I felt good about it. I think the feedback was that the members of RESA felt really good about it, and how the whole process went, I was proud of that.
Tammy, I know you haven't been on the committee all year, but certainly you have been a parent and an observer all year. And if you would like to chime in, we would love to hear what's on your mind.
I am, just in general of the district, I am proud of the district, how it runs. I'm proud of the first grade class. I think they've done just a wonderful job. I'm proud to be a part of this committee for sure. I think Rockport district is great, so I'm proud to be here.
I think that the school system should be proud of the senior internships, the number of students who went out in the community and got that done. I think that the district should be proud of finding a way to create a position for an instructional coach, provide support for teachers in their classrooms, to provide really good support for students with disabilities in special education. I think we should be proud of things like we were able to find school buses when there weren't any buses, right? I remember the conversation, I think it was last year, where you talked about this is how much a bus costs, but it doesn't matter because there aren't any to buy. And I think about the communication and the professionalism and the endless work that goes on behind the scenes that we do not see, that results in a school system that moves smoothly and where there is such an incredible culture of collaboration, right? It's really pretty remarkable. So, okay, so that felt really good. Now let's talk about potential areas for growth and or focus. And we've hit that already, talking about reaching out to the community, garnering support, advocating. But are there other things on your mind that you want to make sure that we don't overlook? We can also pick this back up in our summer workshop, but anything else that's on your mind with this one?
When I think about this, I just think about the visibility. For me, I was able to attend a few more school events than I have in the past that I maybe wouldn't have thought of, and I'd like to continue that and get to see even more as each year goes by. I mean, I'm always amazed at what, especially in the arts, like what comes out of our students. So to continue doing that and to, I got to see some athletics, but again, to see more teams, and I'd like to get out there and, really get my hands dirty in it.
So I mentioned the communication in the loop is one of the things I was proud of, but it's also one of the things that I think we need to potential area for growth to expand upon that and not become complacent with just saying, oh, we have it in the loop, we're good. So I think we need to keep our eye on both of those. The other area for growth is, I think, academic achievement. So we've talked a lot this year about, these different initiatives, the data collection, the curriculum cycles, professional development, all this. And, you have to lay that groundwork, which I think we've done an excellent job of. And now I think we need to start seeing that come to fruition with academic achievement, whatever that, MCAS scores, AP, our own benchmarks, all of that. And it's certainly not everything that we need to keep focused, but it's a part of it for sure. So that would be the one that I'd like to see continue.
I don't want to cut anybody off. Before my brain turns off on that one, this was actually a focus of the leadership team a month or so ago, that as we look at our strategy for district improvement, that we've spent 3 years now, kind of doesn't mean we haven't had growth and achievement, but setting and selling and preparing and training the foundational base for that work. And so that's what we've reported out to you on for a majority of our time coming public. So I think we've had that conversation about, we're ready to hit that reset button in September and say, okay, now we need to demonstrate that, hey, all of this work has really resulted in growth and achievement for kids at a variety of levels. Nope, yep, no, I get it, yeah. But I just want you to know that we have separate conversations as a leadership team, sometimes before you, after you, with you, and it feels really nice when they happen to be the same topic. It's kind of cool.
Nicole? Not to call you out, but
I think my I think I I talked about this when I skipped ahead when we were talking about, I think we need to really start having some serious, not that we have not ever talked about it before, but I think we need to bring to the next level our conversations about the future of the district, what the district in Rockport looks like, getting a sense from the community, what do other people think that it will look like? What do families think it will look like? So I think we need to do sort of we phrased it as understanding the expectations and needs of the community. And so I think that piece will be something that we could focus on next year and just sort of see what is that, because I don't know, we've done that not in a formalized way. So maybe we could think about that.
Tammy?
I agree with Nicole, bringing the community more into the district. I think that was one of the things I had listed for the summer workshop, community. So I definitely agree. Community into the district more. Getting, yes.
And perhaps I agree with all of you. I don't have other area. I mean, I think it goes without saying we have to focus on student growth and achievement, and that the kids are okay, and that they're well and healthy, and that they have enough. I'm sure you remember when the seniors came and did their exit panel. My question was, did you get enough? Obviously we need to focus on finance, and we need to focus on the future of the district. And I feel like that goes without saying. And these are conversations that require the support of the community and the input of the community. Potential challenges. I think we might start to repeat ourselves, but I'm thinking I'm certainly glad that our superintendent has a 5-year contract. That's good. I'm certainly glad that we're not up for negotiations next year. That's positive. I'm glad that our policy review is done. That's really positive, right? We've made a lot of positive strides. And I think for me, the challenges have to do with continuing to focus on finance, on enrollment, and on student growth and achievement. I think that's what the Commonwealth wants us to do.
Yeah.
But feel free to chime in. Please chime in. Yeah.
I mean, if people are agreeing with that one, obviously, right? So I think we've talked about advocacy at a variety of levels. At MASC, your organization, MASS, which is my organization, MASBO, which is June's organization. We're all singing the same song, that the funding formula is broken, and that if you wait long enough in Massachusetts, the data that I've heard from my organization is within a certain period of time, 7 to 10 years, every city and town in the Commonwealth is going to come for an override, either just for the schools or full operations, because the formula is broken. The 2.5 formula is broken, the Chapter 70 is broken, et cetera, et cetera. So whether we like it or not, it's actually how city councils, board of selectmen, select boards, school committees are going to be doing business, which is a horrible way to phrase it. But this is the new financial landscape in the Commonwealth. I can't sit around, doesn't matter how long my contract is or how many years I have till retirement, I can't sit around and wait for somebody to fix that in the legislative floor, right? I can't wait. So we do have to have an open conversation with the community about the cost of educating kids, no different than the cost of any other municipality in the district. And we need to educate ourselves carefully and wisely, so that when we're in those conversations, we're factual, we're passionate, and we're student-centered.
So here's what I would say. School committee members are among the most trusted elected officials in this country. That's what research shows. And
Present company excluded today.
but this is what research shows. When you ask people who they trust, who gets the highest confidence and trust ratings, it's school committee members. And people are not lined up at the door, banging on the door. We don't have 7 to 10 people running for every opening on this committee, right? It's us. And I think people trust us to do this work. They want us to do this work. They appreciate that we do this work. I don't know how many people have said to you in the past year, really? Somebody said to me at lunch today, you let them make you the chair? And I think what we do is very, very important. And the time that we give and the care and the attention to detail and the compassion that we bring to this work is really important. And I think we just need to continue to collaborate, which we do really well, to listen to each other with respect, to be compassionate, and to have a little courage. And I think we are a really strong committee with a lot of depth. We have a super team. We have wonderful schools. I feel like we've had a great year. It's certainly an honor to serve with all of you. And I think our thought is that we'll do a little bit more talking to think about how to structure a useful day in August. And you'll be back to us with details. And I mean all those things. I didn't make it up, and I didn't write it ahead of time. I certainly mean all of that. I think that concludes our new business. Yes. Okay. Do we have any finance reports?
No, we do not.
Not at this time. A school committee discussion.
I feel like you just had one.
I think we did too. This is the superintendent's most. This is the moment where you think, what are people going to say during this school committee discussion? I'm not aware of any items that need to come up for discussion. Nobody's certainly contacted me, but if you have something, all okay. Do we have a need for executive session?
Do not.
I think we really appreciate our secretary who takes all of our minutes. We appreciate the tech people who do all of the work in the booth. People who put the tablecloths, oh, that's you, set up the tables, clean up the tables. All of you, thank you for coming, for being on our school committee this year. Thank you for all the budget, the finance work, all of the excellent work in curriculum and in instruction.
Thank you to the Rockport community for
Thank you to the Rockport community
for all of your support.
Yes, I think it's time for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.